My filter was melting faster than a senator's conscience. And both cost more than I did. The rain hit the concrete in hard metallic bursts, washing neon down the ramp in liquid color. Red and blue lights bled together over the puddles, flashing like a broken heartbeat. Somewhere behind me, the hum of the compliance drones grew sharper, closing in. Their sensors could read through 3 layers of masking, but I wasn't planning to stick around long enough to test their limits. The stolen cleaner core pressed cold against my ribs under the jacket. 30 minutes. That's how long it could erase a scent from every database in the city. 30 minutes of freedom, if I lived that long. I jumped over a collapsed barrier, boots sliding on oil-slick concrete. The parking garage was half flooded, half abandoned, and fully echoing. The kind of place people went missing in, and nobody asked why. My breath hit the inside of my mask like steam. "Easy, Ryan," I muttered. "You've done dumber things." "Probably." A warning tone buzzed in my ear, 1 drone, then 2 more. Compliance didn't waste time tonight. Target identified, probability match, 89%, one of them droned out, monotone and smug. "Cute guess," I said, tapping the chip at my neck. The ghost scent flared online, spreading through my bloodstream, rewriting my profile with cold precision. Peppermint. Graphite. Ozone. Unnatural, sharp, synthetic. A smell no living Omega could pull off. It always made my tongue sting, like licking a battery. The drones hesitated. Data mismatch. Perfect. Then a voice, deep and calm, cut through the static. "Turn it off." I froze. Not because of what he said, but because I could feel him before I saw him. Footsteps. Measured. A scent, subtle, grounding. Impossible to classify. Like iron warmed by sunlight. And under it, something alive. Alpha. I turned slowly, water dripping from my hair. The cleaner core still clutched tight. There he was. Tall, deliberate, built like the word inevitable. The black trench coat clung to his frame, rain sliding off the fabric, eyes dark enough to make you forget colors existed. His badge glowed faintly under his collar, Vayne, Chief of Scent Compliance. Of course it was him, the city's bloodhound. I gave him my best tired smile. Didn't think they'd send the celebrity sniffer himself. He tilted his head. "You've been running for 3 weeks, no footage, no registry match, no traceable scent. I was curious what kind of ghost you'd turn out to be." "I disappoint easily," I said. "Ask anyone." His gaze flicked over me, not hungry, not cruel, just assessing. "You're masking too deep. That compound will burn out your nerves. Good thing I don't plan to keep them." A faint smile, barely there. "You think you're clever. I am clever. You're just late." He took 1 step closer, and I felt my pulse trip over itself. The drones behind him hovered, waiting. "Don't bother hiding," he said softly. "I'll tear your scent out of this city. I'll find you." The air between us tightened, as if the humidity had teeth. I tilted my head. "You sure you want to smell it?" That earned me a flicker in his expression. Surprise, maybe amusement. Hard to tell under that control. His pupils dilated, just a fraction, and I knew he could read it. The sharp edge of adrenaline in my bloodstream, the trace of fear tangled with something far worse. Curiosity. He took another step. "Who are you really?" Someone with better things to do than explain himself to a man who sniffs for a living? His eyes narrowed. "Then run." For half a heartbeat, I thought he'd let me go. Then the drones surged forward. "Ah, hell," I breathed, and bolted left. Bullets of light hissed past my shoulder, burning holes in the mist. I slid between 2 concrete pillars, threw the cleaner core into overdrive. The device screamed in my hand, feedback loop, but I only needed 10 seconds. I ripped my jacket off, tossed it toward the ventilation turbine, and ducked behind a car shell. The fan caught the fabric, twisted, sparked, then exploded. A shockwave punched the air from my lungs. The drones spun out, sensors blind for a heartbeat. I used it, sprinted across the puddle field, boots splashing, lungs burning. "Stop!" Vayne's voice hit like a command through the static, low, resonant, almost physical. My body wanted to listen. My brain told it to screw itself. I leaped over the barricade. Rolled once. Came up running. My mask flickered, alarms spiking red. The peppermint scent disintegrated into something rawer, me. He'd catch it, I knew. I looked back once. Vayne stood in the storm's reflection, unmoving, the ruined drone lights turning his eyes into small stars. Even at that distance I knew he could smell the truth leaking through the cracks. Our eyes met for half a second. He didn't move, neither did I. Then I smiled, just enough to make it an insult, and vanished into the rain. By the time I reached street level, the cleaner core was fried and my lungs felt sandpapered. I ducked into a maintenance tunnel, tore the mask off, and leaned against the wall. Cold concrete, colder air. The city above hummed like a living thing. Water dripped from my chin, mixing with sweat and the faint metallic tang of ozone. My hands shook, not from fear but from something heavier. He'd read through 3 layers of scent filters. No one had ever done that. No one ever should. I laughed under my breath, but it came out sounding wrong. Too sharp, too tired. "Congratulations, Vayne Roke," I whispered into the dark. "You found me." A pause. The echo came back, like an answer I didn't want. "He's not just a hunter. He's the first one who ever smelled I was alive." The scent of broth had eaten through the walls again. Soy, garlic, engine grease, and the faint sweetness of cheap air filters. The official perfume of my safe house. I slammed the door behind me, kicked off my soaked boots, and collapsed on the couch that wasn't legally mine. My mask hissed as I peeled it away. The rubber seal left a red mark across my jaw. "Smells like victory," I muttered, then gagged. "Or ramen." "Hard to tell." A voice floated from the back room. "You'd be the only man who could make freedom smell like expired soup." Kira stepped out, hands stained with solder and noodle oil, a cigarette dangling from her lips. She looked like chaos with good posture. Black hair in a messy knot, eyes too sharp to miss anything. "You're late," she said. "And leaking ozone again. Occupational hazard." I dropped the fried cleaner core on the table. It sizzled like it still hated me. "Add that to the graveyard." She nudged it with a screwdriver. "You realize these things are worth more than our rent, right?" I smiled without humor. "So am I." "Technically." Kira rolled her eyes, grabbed my broken mask, and yanked a toolkit from the shelf. "Sit still," she ordered. "You smell like a blown fuse. Better than smelling like fear." "Wrong, you smell like both." She leaned close, her hands quick and practiced. The smell of metal and solder mixed with her scent. Clean, neutral, beta calm. I envied it. Betas lived invisible. No registration, no taxes for hormone regulators, no scanners in public spaces that chirped at their DNA. "You run into anyone interesting?" she asked, tone casual. "Define interesting." She glanced up, eyebrows raised. "You look like someone tried to arrest you and compliment you at the same time." I hesitated, replaying the sound of his voice cutting through static. "Turn it off. Just the usual. Drones. Rain. Existential dread." "Uh-huh." She reattached the mask's interface, then tightened the strap under my chin. "And the part where someone human almost caught you?" I met her eyes. "You've been watching the feeds again." "Of course. Someone has to keep you alive. Your scent log spiked twice tonight." I didn't answer. She sighed and went back to soldering. "Ryan, you keep pushing this far, the system will notice. They always notice. You're already a ghost. Don't give them a reason to exorcise you." "I'm fine." That's what people say right before they end up in calibration pods. The word hit harder than it should have. Calibration. My throat tightened, but I forced a smirk. "You mean the city's favorite spa day?" Her hand froze mid-motion. "Don't joke about that." I looked away, tracing the crack in the wall that led up to the ceiling vent. Outside, rain whispered on the tin roof. Somewhere below, the noodle shop owner shouted an order in Mandarin. The woks screaming in reply. The smell of broth crawled up through the floorboards again, thick and human and real. I breathed it in because I couldn't breathe what I wanted. "You know what's funny?" I said softly. "The registry thinks it owns the air, like they invented oxygen." Kira didn't laugh. "That's why we hack it, genius. So people can breathe what they choose." Her tone was brisk, but I caught the edge under it, the worry she tried to hide behind sarcasm. "You ever think maybe we're just rearranging deck chairs on the sinking ship?" I asked. She shrugged. "Then I'm making sure the chairs have good Wi-Fi." I smiled. That was Kira, halfway between cynic and saint. After a long silence she said, "Someone sold our route, Ryan." My pulse stumbled. "What?" "The last run's data trail wasn't random. Someone knew the decoy path. The compliance net moved too cleanly." I leaned back, laughed once. Sharp, forced. "Relax. We always assume betrayal. It's part of the brand." But my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Kira set the mask down, her voice quiet now. This city eats people who think paranoia's optional. Then I'm already dessert. She almost smiled. You wish. The humor faded between us, replaced by the low hum of rain and neon outside the window. I rubbed my temples. The image flashed in my head again, white lights, the smell of sterilizer. And my brother's hand slipping from mine as the pod door sealed. He was 17. The calibration was supposed to fix him, make him stable. He came out still. I'd been 13, small and useless, watching through the glass as the machine decided what scent he should die with. Kira didn't know the whole story, but she knew enough not to ask when I went quiet. She just slid the mask back to me and said, "Try not to die tonight. You've got terrible timing." I nodded, though my throat burned. When she left for the back room, I stayed by the window, watching the city steam. The rain blurred the billboards and streetlights until everything looked like one long heartbeat of color. Sometimes I forgot which air was mine, the filtered kind, or the one borrowed through a vent over someone else's kitchen. I pressed the mask to my face, feeling the faint vibration of the repaired filter as it started again. And I whispered to no one. Sometimes it feels like I'm breathing air that doesn't belong to me. The compliance headquarters smelled like antiseptic and cold metal. By design. No one here wanted to smell human. I'd been inside once, years ago. Back then I thought it was a cathedral for people who believed obedience could be sterilized. Turns out, I wasn't wrong. Now I was watching it from 3 different hacked security feeds, all flickering across my cracked holoscreen. Vayne walked through the main corridor, like the place adjusted itself around him. Tall. Precise. Every motion controlled down to the second. The man had the kind of stillness that didn't mean peace, it meant discipline sharp enough to cut glass. He passed through the scent scanners without slowing. They pulsed blue, mapping every molecule around him. His personal profile lit up in the system's log as a calm, exact signature. Cedar, ozone, trace iron. The registry loved him for that. The kind of alpha you could build laws around. "Good morning, Chief Rook." The receptionist smiled too quickly, afraid to breathe wrong. He just nodded. "Morning." Then the door to the analysis lab sealed behind him, and the world went white. Dr. Sato stood amid floating holograms, spiraling scent spectrums, molecular chains turning in mid-air. His coat was spotless, his expression wasn't. "Chief," Sato said, tapping one of the floating diagrams. "You should see this." The projection twisted into a chaotic waveform, scattered and fractured. "Unregistered resonance patterns," Sato continued. "They don't fit omega or alpha frequency bands. The machines flagged it as interference, but..." He hesitated. "It's too deliberate." Vayne folded his arms. "Deliberate how?" Sato zoomed in on the waveform until it became a storm of flickering light. "See these cross harmonics? They don't exist in normal scent chains. It's rewriting itself mid-scan, almost like the subject's chemical code refuses to be read." Vayne studied it silently. "A null?" Sato exhaled. "Possibly. But that's theoretical. Nulls were never confirmed in humans. Just rumors from the black labs. Rumors have a habit of becoming my problem." Before Sato could reply, the door hissed open, and Commissioner Marlowe swept in. The man smelled like expensive citrus and arrogance. "Chief Roque," Marlowe said, voice oiled smooth. "We're calling a press briefing tonight. The city needs results. I want that scent-masking criminal caught by morning." Vayne didn't turn around. "If you want theater, hire an actor." Marlowe's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Don't mistake the public for an audience, Chief. They're investors in our piece. And they want to see blood." Sato cleared his throat. "Sir, I'd advise caution. If this is truly a null..." "Doctor." Marlowe's tone sharpened. "If it can hide its scent, it's illegal. If it's illegal, it's guilty. Simple math." Vayne finally looked at him. "Law isn't math, it's chemistry. You can't force a reaction by yelling at it." The commissioner's nostrils flared. "We've given you every resource. Are you telling me you can't find one masked Omega?" "I found him." Vayne's voice was even. "But catching and parading are not the same thing. So, you refuse?" "I don't hunt for show." Marlowe stepped closer, scent spiking, anger, laced with fear. "You think you're special because your nose makes you useful?" "No," Vayne said quietly. "I think I'm dangerous because it does..." For a moment the room held its breath. Then Marlowe straightened his jacket, smirked back in place. "Fine. But remember, Chief, dangerous tools are the first ones replaced. He turned and left, leaving the sharp stink of his cologne behind. Sato waited until the door sealed. He'll try to make an example of you. Vayne didn't answer right away. He was still staring at the hologram, the chaotic waveform rotating slowly. He's not just masking, he said. He's resisting. It's not chemical, it's will. Sato frowned. You sound almost impressed. Vayne gave a faint, humorless smile. If someone can bend the rules of biology, doctor, maybe the rules deserve bending? On my side of the screen, I couldn't help it. I grinned. The feed was grainy, but his voice came through clean, deep and rough-edged. He's not just a hunter, I thought. He's a believer who hates his own cage. I leaned back in the chair, chewing the end of a broken wire, watching Vayne study the glitching hologram like it was a confession. You're a good dog, I murmured to the screen. But the wrong master's holding your leash. Static flickered. The feed cut to black. And for a moment, in that silence, I swore I could still smell him through the machine, that clean, steady scent of iron and rain, seeping through the circuits. As if even data couldn't keep him out. The train yard was dead, but it still breathed. Fog coiled between rusted tracks, turning the place into a lung of steel and memory. The air smelled of wet metal, ozone, and ghosts of old machinery. Exactly the kind of poetry no one survived in. I crouched behind a half-dismantled freight car, my fingers sliding over the small beacon I'd dropped 10 minutes ago. It pulsed faintly, feeding a false scent trail through the depot. My own digital perfume. I'd led Vayne here on purpose. Sometimes the best way to hide was to make someone look too closely. Come on, hound, I whispered. Let's see how good your nose really is. The fog trembled before I heard him. Bootsteps. Slow, unhurried. He wasn't rushing. He was reading. A silhouette cut through the mist, tall, certain, coat heavy with rain. The beams from the station lamps fractured across his figure. Every movement calculated, but not cold. That was the thing about Vayne. He didn't hunt like a machine. He hunted like something older. Something that listened. I adjusted the mask settings, raising the ghost scent output. The filter purred softly against my skin. Peppermint. Synthetic calm. Nothing to see, nothing to smell. And then, glitch. A soft click in my ear, followed by the faint static whine I'd learned to dread. The mask's status light blinked red. Shit. The chemical line stuttered, skipped, and suddenly the air around me wasn't filtered anymore. The first breath I took tasted like iron and rain. His scent hit a second later, clean, grounding, alive. It wrapped around me like a storm that had forgotten to be angry. He froze. So did I. Even through the haze, I saw his head lift slightly, nostrils flaring just once. He knew. Turn it back on, he said softly. Not a command. A plea wrapped in authority. Can't, I managed, forcing a smirk I didn't feel. Guess we're both breathing the same crime now. He stepped closer, each movement deliberate. His voice was low, calm, but there was something in it that cut through the cold. You shouldn't exist. Neither should your department, I shot back. But it came out breathless. He was close enough now that I could see the reflection of the fog lights in his eyes. His pupils dilated, dark swallowing color. He smelled me, no filters, no lies. Whatever he found there made him hesitate. Not Omega, he murmured. More to himself. Not human, either. Rude, I said, trying to laugh, but my voice broke halfway. Vayne's gaze locked on me, sharp and searching. What are you hiding? Everything worth finding. He took another step, and that was it. The air between us cracked. The fog thickened, pressed close, turning the space around us into a bubble where sound didn't exist. My heart pounded loud enough to fill it. He reached out, not to grab me, just to test the distance. His hand hovered inches from my jaw, close enough that I felt the warmth bleeding through the mist. My own breath hitched, came out uneven. The static from the broken mask vibrated against my skin, faint but insistent. Like it wanted to record the moment and burn it into memory. For a second, no, a fraction of a second, we weren't hunter and prey. Just two people standing too close, in a place that had no right to feel this alive. His fingers brushed the edge of my mask, and every nerve I owned lit up. Ryan, he said. My name. Spoken like a verdict and a secret. It shouldn't have sounded like that. My laugh came out thin. You shouldn't know my name. I didn't, he said quietly. You smelled like it. That broke me a little. For the first time in years, someone saw past the filters, literally, and it wasn't terrifying. It was unbearable. I stepped back, the movement too fast, too loud. The spell shattered. "Stop," he said, but he didn't move to follow. "I told you," I whispered, backing toward the fog. "You get too close, and I'll break something we both need." He frowned, voice softer than I expected. "What's that?" "Control." And then I was gone. Through the side door, into the maze of metal and rain, leaving only the smell of ozone and peppermint collapsing behind me. Vayne stayed where he was. The mist drifted, swallowed his silhouette, but I caught one last glimpse through a security cam feed later that night. He stood among the rusted trains, eyes closed, breathing like he was trying to remember what the air had just told him. And maybe for the first time, I hoped he never forgot. Auntie Lynn's place didn't serve tea. It served consequences. Brewed slow, bitter, and expensive. The sign outside said Lynn's Repair, as if she fixed toasters and not people's lives. Inside, the air was a mix of jasmine steam, cigarette smoke, and secrets too heavy to float. She looked up from the counter when I came in. Silver hair pinned high, reading glasses perched on her nose, a scar running across her wrist like punctuation. She was stirring tea with the same precision I used to hack systems. "Ryan Hale," she said without looking up. "You smell like guilt and ozone. Sit." "I always smell like that." "Then you're always guilty." I dropped into the seat across from her, ignoring the tiny cat that immediately claimed my lap. Its tag read, "Credit." Of course it did. Auntie Lynn poured tea into 2 chipped cups, one for me, one for the ghost of whoever she'd outlived this week. "Freedom isn't free," she said, finally meeting my eyes. "Every breath you steal from this city, someone's paying interest on it." I stared at the tea, steam fogging my mask's lower lens. "If it's a debt, I've been paying in advance." She raised an eyebrow. "You've been spending. Not paying." Her tone wasn't cruel. Just final. I took a sip anyway. Burned my tongue. "Perfect." Lynn leaned back, folding her arms. "You're planning something stupid. You're going to have to narrow that down." Her gaze sharpened. "Word on the lower deck says Commissioner Marlowe's been buying up black market scent filters. Do you know why? Because he likes breathing his own hypocrisy? Because your friend Kiera owes him half a year's worth of stolen data routes?" The cat on my lap purred louder. Or maybe that was my pulse. "Kiera?" I said. "No. She wouldn't." "She would," Lynn said, soft but unflinching. "Good girl, bad debts. Same old math." I wanted to laugh. I almost did. It came out broken instead. "You ever notice how debts don't care who's trying to be good?" Lynn didn't answer. She didn't have to. I stood, pacing the narrow space between stacked crates of tea bricks. "Then we settle it. One last job, registry root keys main tower. I go in, pull the encryption seed, and burn the archive. Marlowe loses leverage. Kiera gets clean. Or dead." I gave her a tired grin. "Dead's easier to explain." The cat meowed like it disagreed. Lynn studied me for a long time. "You think destroying the registry will make you free? I think it'll make breathing optional again." She laughed once, low and sad. "You sound like your father." That hit harder than expected. "He never paid his debts either." "No," she said, eyes softening. "But he never stopped trying." I turned away, pretending to adjust the settings on my new mask. It wasn't even hers, just one she'd pulled from some forgotten shipment. Matte black, with a faint gold stripe along the edge. A little too sleek, a little too hopeful. "Careful," Lynn said. "Hope costs extra." I smirked behind the filter, put it on my tab. Later that night, Kiera and I sat on the rooftop above her workshop, planning the heist over instant noodles and cold beer. "We'll need a proxy ID," she said, typing fast. 2 decoy signals. One on the southern grid, one on the west. "I can't guarantee more than 10 minutes before the registry flags you." 10 minutes is an eternity," I said. "Ask anyone who's dying." She frowned. "Don't talk like that." I shrugged. "It's not a death wish, it's a life overdue notice." She gave me that look, the one halfway between affection and homicide. "You always hide behind punchlines. Only the sharp ones." For a moment, we just sat there, the city stretching below, lights flickering. Like tired stars, the sound of traffic a constant heartbeat. I glanced at her laptop screen, code, routes, fake credentials, all the machinery of rebellion. "You don't have to do this," she said quietly. "Sure I do," I replied. "You're the one who taught me the difference between surviving and living." And what's that difference? Living means you still owe somebody something. When she left, I stayed, watching the mist crawl between skyscrapers. The scent of hot metal and rain carried up from the streets. Somewhere down there, Vayne was probably cataloging chaos, chasing anomalies, pretending not to think about the one that got away. I touched the edge of my new mask and felt it hum faintly against my skin. I'm not a hero, I whispered to the wind. Just tired of breathing someone else's formula. The city had dressed itself in glass for the night, light refracting through towers bouncing off chrome and rain-slick stone like it was trying to hide its sins behind reflection. The registry's annual gala was the perfect place to bury a crime. Too much perfume, too many cameras, and a scent density so high even a bloodhound would choke on the noise. I walked through the entrance hall balancing a silver tray and my nerves. The uniform itched. My mask exhaled a soft floral pulse every few seconds, lavender and sugar, pure compliance. My fake ID badge read Elliot Hahn, Catering Division. It might as well have said liar. Kira's voice buzzed in my ear. Security grid cycling. You've got 9 minutes before the next sweep. Plenty of time to steal from the government and make bad choices, I whispered. That's your entire resume. I smiled, keeping my head down as I slipped between clusters of guests. Politicians, investors, upper-tier alphas with smiles like knives. Their laughter sounded metallic, hollow. Every cent here was polished, filtered, regulated. Not a breath out of place. At the far end of the hall, the registry's control tower shimmered through glass walls. Hundreds of holographic scent patterns spiraling like constellations. My target was upstairs, the root key console. 10 minutes to get in, get the data, and ghost. I moved toward the service lift. Then froze. Because he was here. Vayne Roque. No armor tonight, no badge, no drones. Just a black suit tailored like a confession. He was standing near the balcony, talking to some councilman. Glass of champagne in hand. Even from across the room I could feel him. Calm, centered, the scent of cedar and static cutting through the sweetness like truth through sugar. Ryan? Kira's voice again. You good? Define good, I murmured. Tall, dark and overqualified, just walked in. Shit, Roque? The one and only. Abort. Now. I didn't move. Couldn't. Some part of me wanted to see what he looked like when he wasn't chasing ghosts through rain. Answer, unfairly human. I made myself walk past him, head down, tray steady. Just another faceless worker. The air between us shifted, he noticed. His gaze caught mine in the reflection of a glass pillar. Sharp. A question without words. Keep walking, I told myself. He didn't stop me, but when I turned toward the service lift, a low voice brushed against my ear like gravity. Interesting choice of scent. I froze. He was behind me now. Close enough that I could see his reflection perfectly in the glass. Tie loosened, jaw set, eyes unreadable. I turned slowly, plastering on a smile. Surveillance in a tuxedo? That a new hobby? He tilted his head. Only when the target pretends to smell safe. Lavender's a classic, I said. Everyone loves harmless. Except me. There it was again. His voice, calm and dangerous, the kind that felt like it belonged inside your bloodstream. I took half a step back, pretending to adjust my tray. If you're looking for trouble, you'll have to wait in line. This party's full of it. Then why are you here, Mr. Hale? My pulse stuttered. He said my name softly, like an apology. Before I could respond, the lights flickered, once, twice, and the alarms began to howl. Kira's voice cracked in my ear. Ryan, I'm sorry, Marlowe's men. He found me. Chaos hit like thunder. Guests panicked, security shields dropped from the ceiling. I bolted for the stairwell, ripping the ID badge off my chest. Ryan. Vayne's voice cut through the noise. I didn't look back. The console room was 3 levels up, locked behind a retinal gate. I jammed my override stick into the panel. Kira's code flashed, failed, reloaded. The door opened just enough for me to slip in. The root keys floated before me like glowing seeds, fractal signatures of every registered scent in the city. All the lives catalogued, controlled, owned. I reached out, pulled the drive from my sleeve, then the room exploded in red light. Access breach. Countermeasure triggered. Damn it. I hissed. The drive fried in my hand, useless. Footsteps. Heavy, certain. Vayne appeared in the doorway, breathless but steady. No gun. Just that look. For a moment neither of us moved. Drop it, he said. It's already dead. He stepped closer. You shouldn't be here. Story of my life. I tried to push past him. He caught my wrist. His hand was warm, steady. Grounding. Not force, anchor. Why? He asked. Why risk everything? I met his eyes. Because Kira's paying for air that should be free. His grip tightened for half a second, then loosened. Go, he said quietly. I blinked. What? Run, Ryan, tonight. No arrests. No show. For once, I didn't have a joke ready. Our eyes held. Heat, regret, something nameless flickering in the space between. Then I pulled free, and ran. Behind me, the alarms screamed, the crowd roared, and Vayne stayed exactly where he was, standing in a room full of broken glass and broken laws, choosing mercy over duty. And for reasons I couldn't explain, that felt more dangerous than anything he'd ever done. The basement smelled like burnt sugar and old secrets. Bulbs hung from the ceiling on frayed cords, casting halting circles of light that trembled when someone paced too hard. The hum of the city above felt distant, as if the world had been turned down to let us argue. Kira sat at the far end of the room, knees pulled up, hands clamped around them like anchors. Her eyes were raw, mascara streaked into dark tributaries. When I stepped in, she didn't look up. The kettle on the rusted stove whistled and no one moved to answer it. You look like shit, I said. Because stupid jokes are the currency we still afford in crises. She made a small sound that could have been a laugh or a sob. Deserved. I shut the door and killed the outside line. Privacy in this city is a crime, and also a luxury. I set the ruined drive, the one I thought would save us, on the table between us like a dead animal. Kira, I said quietly. Talk. She swallowed. The room felt too small to hold what she was about to say. They came 3 days ago, she said. They said if I didn't give them our last 2 routes, they'd take the clinic's license. Her voice broke. They'd shut down Auntie Lynn. I thought I could sell it and buy time. I thought I could patch it up before you found out. The kettle shrieked. I didn't move. You gave them our path. I finished for her. The words were flat, practiced. Pain lives in the spaces between syllables, and I'd learned to hear it there. Kira's shoulders shook. I never wanted to hurt you, I swear. She tried to reach for me, but her hands were shaking so badly she clutched at her own sleeves. You betrayed something bigger than me, I said, the syllables cool. You betrayed the air we steal for people who can't pay for their lungs. You betrayed the people who trusted you to get them through checkpoints, and the kids who learned to code in Lynn's back room. You didn't just sell a route. You sold a possibility. Her confession turned into a wail. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I couldn't see another way. I thought debt was something you paid off. I didn't think. Her words collapsed in her chest. I closed my eyes and breathed. The basement's single bulb buzzed. I felt tired in a way that felt older than me. You didn't betray me, I said finally. The words were softer than I expected. You betrayed the air. I watched the reaction in her face, the stupid, grateful relief that I wasn't screaming. And you betrayed yourself, Kira. That's worse. She flinched like I'd pushed her. What do you mean? Now the debt isn't just money, I said. It's a choice. You can keep paying with your skin and your sleep, or you can pay it back to yourself. Start by not doing it again. My voice was cold enough to be steel. That's your sentence. Her sobs quieted into hiccups. I don't deserve. Deserve has nothing to do with it. I set my hand on the table, flat. You deserve to try to fix it. She looked up then, eyes incandescent with something close to hope and shame. If you'll let me. I let out a breath that could have been a laugh. You don't get to borrow my forgiveness like it's a mask. Earn it. I'll help. But the ledger between us changed tonight. You owe yourself that much. I meant it. The words were blunt, exact. Boundaries are a kind of mercy. She nodded, small and trembling. Okay, she whispered. We were 3 fragile people trying to stitch a map back together when the comm on the wall crackled. Vayne's voice came through, flat, low, clipped. Then Marlowe's, honeyed and lethal. Chief Roque, we have confirmation. The subject is in contact with known operators. We need arrests. A public crackdown is necessary to reassure the populace. Marlowe's tone was everything I hated about power, smooth and predatory. There was a pause. Vayne's reply was measured. I will act within legal parameters. Marlowe laughed. An ugly sound. You will do as ordered. Public arrests, make an example. I watched Vayne's jaw work. The muscles at his temple flexing like wires. He could have given us up that night with a single word. One sentence that would have emptied the room and repopulated the cells. Instead, his voice came calm, quieter than the wires and the kettle. No spectacle. Static. A breath drawn. Something furious and slow in the way Marlowe answered. "You're insubordinate, Chief. You're relieved of field command pending review." The line went dead. Silence slammed into us like a wave. Kira's head dropped against her knees. Auntie Lynn's cat hopped onto the table and nudged the ruined drive with its nose, unimpressed by human politics. I pictured Vayne standing at his console, narrowing his shoulders as if bracing for a blow. I had watched him refuse a camera in a server room. I had watched him choose not to drag me across a stage. He paid for that mercy in real time. He could have saved himself, Kira said, voice hoarse. Why would he? Because sometimes people choose to keep their hands clean by not putting them on another person's throat, I said. He's complicated. My tone had the small, brittle laugh of someone who'd been disappointed a long time ago, and was tired of being surprised. In the doorway, Dr. Sato lingered with a tray of cooling tea. He had been our quiet ally in sterile coats, the one who watched spectrums and sometimes found tears in their shapes. He set the tray down, fingers trembling. He looked at Vayne's empty chair on the feed, and finally, the scientist in him showed, the sure clinical curiosity wobbling under something like doubt. "We always said the registry was about safety," Sato murmured. "But if people fear the registry more than the criminals, perhaps the balance is wrong." His eyes found mine. "Perhaps we are the ones who need checking." That was the sentence that felt like a verdict. Between the kettle's hiss and the cat's indifference, the foundation beneath us had shifted. The old maps were burned. Whatever came next would be worked from ash. Kira made a small sound and reached for my hand. I gave it to her. No warmth, no theatrical forgiveness. Just a steady, human grip. Outside, the city went on breathing, indifferent and loud. Inside, we started to plan how to pay a debt that wasn't measured in currency anymore. The lab was too quiet for a place built on noise. Every machine hummed in a different key, like the room was holding its breath for us. Holographic scent maps floated in the dark, lattices of color and light, curling through the air like glass smoke. My reflection rippled through them, fractured and uncertain. For once, the city above didn't exist. Dr. Sato stood near the core table, his lab coat catching the blue glow. He looked older tonight, the kind of tired that doesn't come from age but from realizing what you've built might be wrong. He tapped a control pad, and one of the holograms spun faster. It looked like a spiral of lightning, breaking and reforming. "This," he said, voice thin, "is you." "Dramatic," I said, forcing a smirk. "Most people just use words." He didn't smile. "Ryan, your scent pattern isn't a disguise, it's a paradox. You're a null, a person whose genetic imprint can erase or rewrite olfactory memory. You don't mask the data, you change it." I stared at the swirl. It bent and unbent, a visual echo of my heartbeat. "So I've been hiding behind an illusion that was me?" "Incomplete you," he said. "Suppressed. Your body never stabilized because it's been fighting the mask. Every filter, every false scent. It's like teaching your lungs to forget they're yours." I laughed quietly. My whole life I've been running from what could have saved people like me. "Funny, isn't it?" Sato didn't answer. His face flickered with something close to guilt. Marlowe knew null data existed, he buried it. You were living proof, and he would rather classify you as contraband than as hope. The word hope hit wrong. Hope gets people killed in this city. Before I could say something stupid, the lab's security lights dimmed. A familiar presence slipped through the doorway. Quiet steps, deliberate breath, and that steady scent of cedar and ozone. Vayne. No gun. No armor. Just his coat, and the expression of someone who'd made a decision, and wasn't sure he liked it. Sato tensed. "You shouldn't be here." "I could say the same," Vayne replied, eyes on me. "But here we are." I crossed my arms. "Came to finish the arrest or the conversation?" "Neither," he said. "Came to help." Sato blinked. "Help?" Vayne took another step forward, hands open. "You're destabilizing, Ryan. Your scent field's collapsing on itself. If it hits zero sync, your nervous system will follow. You need an anchor." "Oh good," I said. "A medical miracle delivered with bedside manners." "I mean it," he said. "I can stabilize you. Anchoring isn't permanent. But it'll give your body something to align with, until we can fix the field." Sato frowned. "Anchoring requires full contact. Sync resonance. You'd burn through your own stability doing that. Vayne looked at him, then at me. Worth it. I exhaled slowly. You sure about this? If I die, I'm not refunding your career. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. If you die, I'll file it as death by excessive proximity. Romantic. Practical. He reached out a hand. I hesitated, then took it. His skin was warm, his pulse steady. The contact sent a low vibration through me, like electricity wearing human clothes. Sato dimmed the room lights. When the resonance starts, don't fight it. The body will remember what to be. I wanted to say something sarcastic, but the words dissolved as the anchoring began. Vayne closed his eyes. His grip tightened, not painful, just grounding. A soft light spread between our palms. Thin as a hairline crack. Then it deepened, color shifting from silver to blue, wrapping around us like a quiet storm. The scent fields collided. My mask's filters popped one by one, their artificial fragrance dying out. The lavender, the mint, the graphite, all gone. In their place rose something new, something raw and clean, like rain hitting old metal. Mine. It burned. God, it burned. Like my lungs were relearning honesty. I wanted to pull away, but Vayne's voice cut through the static, low, steady, calm. Breathe. I am. Then stop running while you do it. His words threaded through the pain, and I obeyed. The light throbbed, then softened. My body felt heavier and lighter all at once. When I finally opened my eyes, the holographic lattice had shifted. The chaos was gone. In its place, a balanced spiral, glowing faintly gold. Sato's voice shook. It worked. I looked at my hands. They didn't tremble. The air around me was still, quiet. No filters, no masks, just me. Vayne let go, his expression unreadable. Your field's stable. Define stable, I said, voice hoarse. Alive, he said simply. I laughed, unsteady but real. Guess that's new. Sato smiled for the first time in weeks. Null or not, you're proof the system can change. Or crash, I said. Depends on who's watching. Vayne's gaze caught mine. Then let them watch. And for the first time I didn't feel like something broken trying to pass for functional. I felt wired, real, whole. The city was still out there, heavy with its laws and filters and debts. But for one brief perfect moment, I owned the air I breathed. The lab didn't shake so much as it shuddered, like the building itself was deciding whose side it was on. The blue lights overhead blinked twice, then went red. Dr. Sato swore softly. They're breaching the outer corridor. Vayne turned to the door, every line of him drawn tight. His hand twitched toward a weapon that wasn't there, because he'd chosen not to bring one. I admired the irony. Through the glass partition, the holographic scent lattice that represented. My field still spun, gold against the storm-colored air. It looked alive. Or maybe I was just projecting. March, I started. Marlowe, Vayne said, already moving. He won't risk negotiation. He'll come in with force. Good, I said. I'm tired of polite. The first blast hit like thunder. The door half melted, half disintegrated as security drones poured in. Sleek black shells humming with violet light. Behind them came the agents, full armor, masked, efficient. And behind them, Marlowe, in his immaculate suit, stepping through smoke as if it were merely fog. He smiled when he saw me. There you are. My anomaly. Sorry, I said, stepping away from the console. No autographs. Vayne moved in front of me, calm as always. Commissioner, there are civilians in here. Marlowe ignored him. Chief Roque, he said smoothly, you're still an officer of compliance. Step aside. Vayne didn't. No. The silence that followed cracked louder than the gunfire. Marlowe's smile vanished. You refuse a direct order? I refuse this order, Vayne said. There's a difference. He shifted slightly, putting himself fully between me and Marlowe. For the first time, I realized how steady he looked in chaos, like the city could crumble, and he'd still be the one thing that didn't flinch. Marlowe's tone turned venomous. You're throwing your career away for a criminal. I'm throwing it away for the truth. Truth? Marlowe laughed. He's an error in the system, a walking breach. He shouldn't even exist. I stepped forward, voice calm. Maybe the system shouldn't either. At that, Sato moved, his hands flying across the console. The main holoscreen flared to life, broadcasting across every open channel in the city. News feeds, ad boards, the registry's own internal network, all hijacked. Images flooded the air, data logs of forced calibrations, files of deleted, null experiments, lists of deaths marked as training accidents. Sato's voice came through the speakers, trembling but clear. Public notice, compliance registry falsified records, and suppressed evidence of null biology. What was called safety was control. What was called regulation was erasure. Marlowe spun toward him, shouting, "Turn it off!" But the doors behind him slammed shut. Heavy locks glowed red. Auntie Lynn's work, remote override. Her voice crackled over the comm. "Sorry, sugar. You'll have to finish your villain speech in private." Kira's voice joined in through my earpiece, bright and furious. "Uplink's stable. You're live everywhere, sweetheart. Make it worth the airtime." I grinned, despite the chaos. "Always do." Vayne shot me a look, half warning, half admiration. "Ryan." Yeah, I said. "Don't die. Got it." The drones advanced. Vayne struck first. Fast, clean, no hesitation. He used one as a shield, deflecting a plasma burst. Sato ducked behind the console, shouting coordinates to keep the stream running. I ran to the lattice core. The golden spiral pulsed faster, syncing with my heartbeat. I knew what I had to do. The anchoring had stabilized me, but the rewrite was still incomplete. My scent was balanced, but still readable. Traceable. The registry could rebuild it from data if I didn't finish the process. I touched the interface. The pulse shot through my veins like electricity made of air. My chest tightened, my vision swam. For a moment, I thought I'd stop breathing. Then everything snapped into focus. The smell around me changed, sharper, cleaner, untethered. It didn't cling to surfaces. It didn't leave a mark. It simply was. Unregistered. Unowned. Free. "Ryan." Vayne's voice. Urgent, closer than it should have been. I turned, grinning. "Looks like the registry can't log me anymore." "Congratulations," he said dryly. "You're officially no one. Best promotion I've ever had." We met halfway through the smoke, the chaos breaking around us like waves. Sato's broadcast still echoed in the distance. Shouts, alarms, the crack of drones shorting out. Vayne grabbed my wrist, pulling me toward the emergency exit. "We need to go, Marlowe." "We'll face what's coming," he said. "You don't owe him your death." The corridor outside was filled with haze and the metallic scent of overheated circuits. Sparks rained from the ceiling, painting everything in electric gold. As we ran, I could hear Kira shouting directions in my ear, and Lynn laughing like a woman who'd just won a bet against hell. When we reached the final hatch, I turned back for one last look. The lab was burning, data bleeding into the sky through overloaded transmitters. Every secret the city had tried to bury was rising into light. I looked at Vayne. "You smell like home," I said before I could stop myself. "I hate that." He didn't miss a beat. "And you smell like freedom." A pause. "I hate that more." We both smiled, breathless, burned, alive. Behind us, the door gave way with a final metallic scream. Ahead, the city opened in sheets of rain and light. And for the first time when I breathed, the air didn't taste borrowed. The roof above the noodle shop always felt taller than it was. Maybe it was the steam that curled up from the kitchen vents, or the way sunset stuck to the glass towers and refused to let go. A soft rain drifted in and out, turning every streetlight into a halo and every billboard into a watercolor. Somewhere below, a walk screamed, a scooter backfired, and someone laughed like the city hadn't been on fire a day ago. My phone buzzed against the metal railing. Headline after headline scrolled past. Commissioner Marlowe under investigation, registry, calibration program suspended. Whistleblower physician releases null files. Dr. Sato's name was everywhere. So was mine, well, my work was, though I'd replaced my face with a cartoon lung giving the finger. "Subtle," Kira had said when I showed her the logo. "It's a lifestyle," I'd replied. Below, on street level, a slow line of people had already formed outside a storefront that hadn't existed yesterday. The sign over the door read Clinic of Free Air, hand-painted for now, but Auntie Lynn promised a proper sign when the budget could breathe. Inside the one-room space, Kira was hooking up clean filters and making a joke of the intake forms. People laughed, then cried, then laughed again. Lynn told them rules and prices. The first was short, the second was optional. They were not selling freedom. They were teaching people how to keep it. My blog was open on my lap, The newest post half finished, freedom smells like hot metal and a refund. The words came easier than they should have. Turns out when the city stops trying to decide your chemistry, your sentences stabilize. Thought you hated heights, a voice said. I didn't jump. Some presences arrive like doors slamming, Vayne arrived like a lock turning. I glanced over my shoulder. He stood with his hands in his coat pockets, hair damp from the rain, black shirt unbuttoned. At the throat like he'd remembered how to be off duty, and wasn't sure whether to apologize. He looked, frankly, good. It was rude. Temporary truce with gravity, I said. We're co-parenting the skyline. He stepped to the edge beside me. For a moment we just watched the city breathe. Steam rising from manholes, buses hissing. At stops, a vendor shouting that her dumplings were hotter than the scandal. On the building across from us, a holoscreen played Sato's testimony with captions. People paused under umbrellas to read, then kept walking a little straighter. How's the suspension? I asked. He huffed a quiet laugh. They called it administrative leave. I'm told I'm not allowed to smell anything official. Tragic. The city will have to sniff itself. I nodded toward Clinic of Free Air. You could volunteer. We pay in tea and sainthood. I'm terrible at both, he said. But I'm learning to be bad at vacations. We fell into an easy silence. The rain came a little harder, and then softened again, like it wasn't sure whether to commit. I kept waiting for regret, he said finally. It didn't arrive. That's because I signed for it under my pseudonym, I said. Return to sender. He turned his head, studying me. Something in his eyes looked unarmored. You look different. I smell different, I said. Hard to fake both at once. His mouth tugged at the corner. How's the field? Stable, I said. Sato says I'm within acceptable variance for an anomaly, which is the nicest insult anyone's given me. Good. He paused. I heard your broadcast, about the air belonging to the people who breathe it. Gets preachy if you say it too loud, I said. But, yes. Below us, Kira stepped onto the sidewalk to hang a printed sheet under the sign. Pay what you can. Take what you need. No cents registered without consent. Auntie Lynn ceremoniously taped a red ribbon across the door, then cut it with a pair of golden kitchen scissors and bowed like she'd just married the neighborhood to itself. You helped do that, I said quietly. So did you, he said. The rain made small circles on the metal railing. I let my fingers drum a rhythm between them. Write anything honest lately? He asked, nodding at the blog. Working on it. I read from the draft. Freedom smells like rain hitting old steel. And like noodles at 2 a.m. And like the shirt of the person who stood between you and a lie. I cleared my throat. It's a first draft. It's accurate, he said. I looked at him. He didn't look away. Say it, I told him. He tilted his head, amused. You issuing orders now? Just this once. It's a rooftop. We're legally obligated to be dramatic. He stepped closer, the space between us narrowing into something that hummed. The scent that was always him, iron warmed by daylight, cedar after. A storm. Settled around us like a memory learning how to be present. You still smell like trouble, he said. And you, I answered, voice low. Like a reason to stay. We didn't rush it. The kiss was unhurried and certain, without any of the emergency that had built it. It tasted like rain and tea, and a future that might require work, but would never require apology. When we broke, the city kept moving as if it had been waiting for us to catch up. Down on the street someone cheered for no reason. Or maybe, every reason. Vayne touched his forehead to mine, the simplest anchor. What do you call this? He asked. Tuesday, I said. And a good one. We stood there until the steam thinned, and the lights came up in 100 windows. Somewhere, a radio played a bad pop song and made it sound new. My phone buzzed again. The post had gone live by accident, or on purpose. Comments flew in from strangers with familiar lungs. I took a breath. The city still smelled like electricity and rain. But now, it smelled like me.